Hey everyone, how's it going? AZREN here, hope you guys are doing well. In this video, I want to share some of my thoughts on the role of the language teacher. I think a lot of people have very different perspectives on what the role of the language teacher is and what the role of the language teacher isn't. So I thought I'd pop on camera and share some of my thoughts on the topic. Now, I think first and foremost, one of the major things that a teacher can do for you is they can give you a roadmap. They can literally say, hey, this should be the first thing you learn, this should be the second, this should be the third, this should be the fourth, this should be the fifth, etc., so that the learner, the language learner, doesn't really have to worry about that or think about that. The teacher's figured it out for them, and the student basically has to walk along the map or walk along the steps and learn the steps and follow the steps that the teacher's already figured out. And I think that for a lot of people can be a huge value point, whether it is with a private tutor, like a one-on-one sort of setting or a small group setting, or whether it's like in a public school system and you're like in grade 12 and like your teacher is just someone's figured out a curriculum and the teacher is teaching the curriculum. They figured out the roadmap for you. I think teachers as well, language teachers, they're really phenomenal for giving you, or at least a decent language teacher, should be able to give you feedback and advice. They should be able to say, hey, you're making XYZ mistakes, so here's how you could fix, or here's some thoughts, or here's some advice, here's my perspective on how you can fix or improve upon XYZ mistakes. And again, obviously in a classroom setting, in like a public school, it's harder because you might have 25 students, so it can be more challenging to figure out exactly what each and every student's biggest roadblocks are. But, you know, I think a school teacher, private tutor, I think everyone has, all decent teachers, anyone who's in that position, has the ability to do that to some level. I think the other thing for a language teacher is they can explain the concepts of the language in a faster way than if you were to maybe go try and figure it out on your own. So for example, if you have a teacher, whether it's a private teacher, a school teacher, or even now that I'm talking this out, maybe it's like a YouTube teacher. It's like a person who teaches on YouTube who just has pre-recorded lessons. Even in that context, the teacher can take a concept like the present tense in English and can break it down in a way where you can, you know, take a 1 hour lesson or half-hour lesson or whatever and be like, wow, that makes sense to me. Without the teacher, it might have taken you a heck of a lot longer. I think the other thing, and this does not apply as much to a school teacher, at least in my perspective. I think for private teachers specifically, you can reverse engineer your students. So you can figure out what is your student trying to achieve, why are they taking lessons, why are they learning that language, and you can try and you can try and design your lessons, design your classes in a way that helps them the most. Right, obviously in a school board system, it's a little bit different because you're tied to a curriculum, but in a private teaching world, you're not really tied to that. Your curriculum becomes what the student actually wants to learn and what they're trying to get out of lessons, right? So that is a massive thing as well. Now, these are all a whole bunch of things that a language teacher is there for. These are things that I think, generally speaking, in most cases, in most environments, in my experience so far, unless I'm missing something, generally speaking, these are things that teachers should be doing. And these are things that teachers, you know, really, it is kind of part of their job, I guess you could say. Now, there are things that are not part of the job of a teacher. I think the biggest thing is a teacher can make it easier for you to learn, but you have to study. The learner has to go and study outside of class. The learner has to go out and seek different opportunities for them to continue developing outside of the classroom. It's like I was having a conversation with a student of mine, and it was funny, we were talking about this, and we were talking about how he could teach someone. He works in kind of a labor field. He's like, I could teach you how to fix something, right? And I could show you in a few hours. But in a week, like if you just came back to me and hadn't practiced trying to fix that, we wouldn't have made a lot of progress, right? So the teacher, yes, they can teach you, yes, they can give you tips, but the learner has to go out of the classroom and apply it. The learner has to go find their own resources. The learner should be going out, watching videos on their own, listening to music, things like that. Because what happens is that the people who work between the lessons on their own, on things that motivate them, things that they enjoy, finding their own things, those are the students, in my perspective, in my experience, that tend to progress a lot faster. And even to build on that, excuse me, I think a lot of the people who don't work in between classes, whether it's homework, whether it's whatever, the kids who don't work, people who don't work, they actually often don't really progress at all. And these are the ones who will often take lessons and try and study and do all that, and after 5 years, they're still not very good. And the reason, one of the major reasons, is that if you track the number of hours that they put into the language, they probably didn't put enough. Versus someone who took a class, let's say 1 hour every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so 3 hours a week, who also went out and listened to music, tried to watch some TV, maybe they put in an additional 5 hours throughout the week on their own, and all of a sudden they're getting 8 hours of study time, of work time in per week, so they're learning a lot faster. And when you look at that 8 hours, for example, 5 of those 8 hours was self-study. They were things that they wanted to go study. They were things that they were motivated by. It wasn't like they walked into a classroom and the teacher was teaching things that the teacher thought was valuable. When you're learning things on your own, you're learning things that you want to do. You're self-motivated, and that self-motivated study, in my perspective, my experience, I feel like it tends to, oftentimes, not always, but often it tends to have bigger results, or you can take more away from it, at least from what I've seen. So something that's really important to talk about, I wanted to bring it up because I've noticed that, some of my students that I'm teaching, I've noticed that some of them, not all of them, some of them have some concept of like, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount of money, and you're just going to teach it, you're just going to teach me. I'm going to come to class and it's going to fix all my problems. Happens often with parents, I've noticed. Sometimes parents send their kids in and they sort of think, yeah, they're going for tutoring 1 hour a week. It's going to fix this whole problem of whatever they're trying to fix. Oh, their grades are down. I'll pay for a tutor an hour a week. It'll fix everything. Well, no, because now your kid has to work outside of the class. Your kid has to be motivated. Your kid has to do the homework I give him. The kid has to... It's not black and white. You can't just go take an hour a week of classes, 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, everything's set. That's not how it works. That's the big thing I want to drive home, because I've been noticing that more and more, and I was like, this is fascinating. This is an interesting thing I didn't know. So anyway, hope you guys liked the video, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye for now.